Good morning, everyone. My name is Sterling Higa, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd now like to call to order the March 5th, 2025 Kalaeloa Authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. The time is now 11:30 a.m.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's Kalaeloa board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The HCDA communication staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. It is important that all individuals clearly state their name, pseudonym, or other identifier name each time prior to speaking. If you wish to provide oral testimony and you are attending virtually, please indicate so by clicking the raise hand button on your Zoom screen. If you are attending in person, you'll be called to the front of the room in the order that you signed up. All testimony will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Your testimony must be related to an item on the agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. When 1 minute is remaining, 1 minute remains will be called out, and when 30 seconds is remaining, 30 seconds remain will be called out. When time has elapsed, time will be called out, after which you will have 30 seconds to conclude your testimony, and then your audio will be turned off. If you are attending in person, the presiding officer will call the next testifier. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. If the authority's connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect that the following members are present. Vice Chair Ishii.
Here.
Thank you. Secretary Lidstone.
Here.
Thank you. Member Miranda Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Member Anderson is excused. Member Evans.
Member Evans,
Yep.
Sorry.
Thank you, Member Evans. Member Strikes.
Here.
Thank you. Member Gordner.
Yep, you have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. For today's board meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted to provide their testimony respectively. Moving to agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. These are the regular meeting minutes of December 4th, 2024. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Moving to agenda item number 3, decision making. Consider approving pursuant to the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision and order dated February 2nd, 2022 for application number KAL 21-005 Gentry Homes, Gentry Reserved Housing Unit Pricing and Supporting Analyses for increment 3 of Ka'ulu by Gentry located on parcel TMKs 19-1-013, 197, 198, and 199 in the HCDA's Kalaeloa Community Development District, no postal address. Mr. Ryan Tam, Director of Planning and Development, will now present the staff report.
Good morning again, Chair Higa and board members. You do have the staff report in your packets. I will just briefly summarize. Again, one of the decision and order conditions of the approval of the development permit for Ka'ulu by Gentry was for the authority to approve the Gentry's Reserve Housing Program, which was done by the board on August 3rd, 2022. The condition, however, is that the applicant does submit for board approval the unit prices for each increment 90 days prior to announcing the sales for each increment. Again, increment 1, the authority approved increment 1 on October 4th, 2023, and increment 2 on July 3rd, 2024. The applicant is coming in to price the increment 3 reserve housing units at essentially the same price as the previous increments. That's $610,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom floor plan, and $685,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom floor plan. This is approximately 123% and 131.1 to 131.3% of the AMI for the 2 and 3-bedroom units respectively. And on average, the total increment 3 reserve housing units are priced at 129.8% of the area mean income level and is below the HCDA maximum allowable AMI of 140%. With that, I will actually turn it over. I'll introduce Andrew Konkawa and Quinton Machida from Gentry Homes to provide additional details or questions, answer questions.
Chair Higa, other board members and staff, appreciate you guys considering this request.
Sorry, can you state your name?
I'm sorry, Andrew Kamikawa, Gentry Homes. Yes, again, thank you for considering this request. We're excited to, keep pushing forward with our Kalaeloa by Gentry project and to bring homes to the Kalaeloa district. And kind of we stated the last time, we are having some difficulties with, selling these units. We have been selling them. They have been getting contracted and we have been closing them, but kind of at a much slower pace than we would, which we need to kind of keep the project moving at a, at a pace that we would like. And I just wanted to just highlight that, reserve housing program is great. It's a great program, when homes are needed to be reserved for, workforce type families. When there are no market homes available for them. But right now, that's really not so much the case. There are resale townhomes and condominiums and new developments in Ho'opili, which are similar in price to our reserved units with no restrictions. And, so buyers are sometimes reluctant to purchase, our Kalaeloa reserved housing units, even if we feel our quality and features are, are better than these other homes. And then we just also want to highlight that, the Kalaeloa, the Evaplane market is a little bit different than the Kaka'ako market. Just for instance, like I think the median price for last year of a condo in Kaka'ako was around $885,000, whereas the median price of a condo in the Evaplane is about $660,000. So in Kaka'ako, that's like close to 200% MI thereabouts, whereas in Kalaeloa and Eva, it's that 660 is closer to 130% AMI. So it's like in Kaka'ako, it's getting that 120 to 140% AMI units, like, it's very desirable versus the market truly is kind of this workforce bucket in Eva. So it's been sales have been a little slower than we wanted. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that maybe, after this, we'll keep at it. We're continuing to market the products, but we might kind of go to the staff to kind of see what types of, assistance or changes could be made to the program to kind of help us move these along. But thank you again, and we're open for any questions.
Thank you. Members, comments or questions for staff or the developer? Member Evans.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Andrew, do you have any hypothesis on why the Kalaeloa reserve housing units are not as attractive as first the Ho'opili units that are similar and are not reserved housing and therefore don't have restrictions, and second, the Kalaeloa units that might be similar in size but have a much higher price point? Just
yeah, so to I guess to your first question, I think in general the market's a little slower compared to 2-3 years ago. So I'm not saying that like the new homes or the resale markets, like I don't believe Ho'opili is like selling out like that. They don't have like lines of people to get these units, but I guess it provides options for buyers, to keep their options open and have options that don't have any no shared equity or no buyback restrictions. That's kind of part of the reason why I think it's a little tougher on that front. And then to your second question, so in Kalaeloa, in our Ka'ulu by Gentry project, say in the same Apex building where these units reside, we also have a 2-bedroom plan that the base price is about 140% AMI. So it's still kind of, within reach for this workforce housing group, but just without the restrictions. That's kind of why they would gravitate towards those units. And Gentry as a company, for years and years, we've always sold only to owner occupants. So the people buying these other units that are, similarly priced, they're owner occupants. And we require that for 1 year. We make them sign an affidavit, but that's for all of our Gentry homes. That's something that we just do as a company.
Thank you. That's helpful. I appreciate that. So the buyback and shared equity restrictions, of course, are designed to keep the price lower than or to allow developers to offer homes at a lower price point. But you say that you're able to price comparable homes in the same price range. Is there a reason why you couldn't offer the reserved housing at a lower price range? Is it labor and materials? What kinds of factors do you use in pricing those units?
So in my example with that 2-bedroom market unit within the same building, we have increased the price because that's a market unit. We have increased the price since our initial sales launch. So we've been trying to create a bigger spread between the market unit and the reserved 2-bedroom unit. We're hoping that creates some traction and makes these reserved units more desirable. That spread has been increasing, and we're hopeful that continued spread increase will help the reserved units, but hasn't quite done so in a meaningful way at this juncture.
Well, that's a very interesting explanation, because it sounds like you're increasing the market units rather than reducing the price on the reserved housing units. So
yes, I know, but because of cost, we really are, we're not making any, we're losing money on these reserved units. And I mean, we would love to build faster and bring more of these other units that are, moderately priced to the market faster, but having these reserved units kind of dragging us slowed that process a little bit. We have increased some of our marketing efforts, increased the buyer incentive on for certain loan products, and our sales and marketing team are doing their best as well. But yeah, I know it seems logical to look at reducing the price, but it's just financially for our company, it'd be very difficult. Yeah.
I was actually, thank you for your candid response. I was trying to figure out if it was, just simply you can't build homes in that space, number of bedrooms and whatever at any lower than you're already doing.
Yeah, as everyone knows, inflation and costs have been pretty sticky and increasing, so it has been a difficult market.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I think I have some comments later after we're finished asking Andrew questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Member Evans. We'll come back to you, Vice Chair Ishii.
Thank you, Chair. Andrew, so I had a question. When we were first approached by Gentry for this particular project, one of our major concerns was the pricing between the reserved housing as comparatively to the market pricing. And we were concerned that this gap was too close, and we talked about quite a few different elements, such as maybe offering more incentives, maybe appliance packages or something to stimulate the differences between the reserve housing and the market price properties. And it seems like that has started to come to fruition to at least a point. You know, I think back then we were talking about looking at maybe your pricing on your market prices were a little bit too low, too aggressive in comparison to what you maybe need to do to offset it with the reserve pricing. Any of the case, we're here today, and my question is more, what else can you potentially do from a to incentivize individuals to go and take a look at the reserve housing, either via incentives or some kind of packages. Secondly, I noticed that when I'm looking at your Exhibit A, which had the different reserve housing increment 3, there's not many 2 bedrooms. There's mostly 3 bedrooms. Have your studies show that the 3 bedrooms are not as, I mean, more desirable from a reserve housing perspective, or, you know, is there a way to do a different shift? You know, looking at reserved housing, it may be where individuals are just trying to get into the marketplace and get their first home, and a 2-bedroom might be more palatable as you start. So I'll take a pause here.
Thanks, Vice Chair. So I guess answering your first 2 questions, yeah. So we did we have tried to provide, you know, small packages like window coverings to kind of you know, help incentivize these the reserved housing unit buyers. We have been offering the 3% incentive, which was what we said we would do from the onset of our, you know, reserved housing approvals. And then for certain loan types, we've been offering up to 4%. So that's another kind of incentive that, you know, they can use for buying down their loan, you know, paying up for startup fees, paying up for closing costs. So, you know, we're continuing to offer those types of things and hoping it'll create some momentum. And then to your second question about, yeah, the 2 bedrooms. So just in general, there are more 3 bedrooms in the entire project as a whole. So we've kind of discussed that with our sales team in terms of, like, you know, are the 2 bedrooms truly just more desirable for the reserved housing units, or is it just we have less of them, so they, you know, and more of the 3 bedrooms. That's why the 3 bedrooms are kind of hanging around. And I don't think we come to like a clear conclusion on that respect, but I do see your point, and it just might be difficult to kind of, you know, redesign the product at this point. It'd be a pretty big endeavor, so, you know, we haven't looked at that too closely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ishii. Members, any other comments or questions for staff or the developer?
Member Straits.
Member, we'll go to Member Straits, then Member Gordner, then we'll go to Member Lidstone.
Andrew, could you, do you have the percentage that has of units that have closed or contracted for the market? For increments 1 and 2?
In total, I think as of last month, we had about 80 closings. So that includes both our single family and multifamily and reserved and market. So I guess out of that 80 some odd closings, the 11 were reserved units at this point.
Right. So I see.
Sorry, what were you looking for?
Well, so I'm looking for a comparison, because you say 44% of the reserved housing units have been closed or contracted.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see what the comparable is for the market.
From what we've gone to sale, it's a higher percentage. It's not 100%, you know, like when there's lotteries and tons of people waiting around, you know, to even get a unit. But I can provide that number to you separately. I don't have it on hand.
Yeah, I guess I thought I was kind of curious when you were responding to board member Evans' question, saying that you're willing to increase the price of the market units. I'm assuming, yeah, of course, there's a higher demand than for those, but in order to kind of make it more of a gap between the affordable
Yeah.
units. But I'm kind of wondering why you're not willing to then also at the same time decrease the price of the reserve, because that would, you're making up money by increasing the price of the market. So then you should be able to discount more on the reserve and increase the gap that way further, right?
Yeah, I mean, the market units are getting increased, but I mean, at this point, it's more like covering cost increases to a certain extent. So that's why it did make it hard to kind of decrease the pricing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm just looking at your numbers for increment 3 for the reserves. You know, I guess it's like 610,000
Correct, yeah.
versus 620,000 for the market, and
Yeah.
that's 877 square feet. And then for the 3 bedroom, 685 for the reserve versus 700,000 for the market, and that's 1080 square feet. So yeah, I mean, that alone, you're probably gonna be struggling with Whole Peely, which offers a little bit more for the price. But do those units include like a yard, or is that just interior?
That's just the interior CPR size. It's not gross, like in a traditional single family, it'd probably be higher if it was.
Okay, so they don't have an outdoor like private area.
Well, all of them come with so I guess comparing it to hopefully they do have, all of these do have a enclosed 1-car garage and a second stall on the apron. And then both of these units also come with the upstairs lanai.
Okay,
Pretty generous lanai, yeah.
okay.
Just maybe for clarification too, on the you know, comparing the sales price versus the market price. So all of these plans are exclusively, for the most part, exclusively reserved units. So when I made the comment of, you know, increasing the spread on our market units, it's a separate plan type, which is, so I guess if you looked at the 2-bedroom at 610, the base price for the 2-bedroom market, which is a slightly different unit, is actually the base price I believe is 695 now. That's that spread I was mentioning, which it started off closer. The market unit was like 660, but we've increased it to about 695.
And then last question is just with your phasing map in Exhibit C.
Yeah.
So I noticed overall or in total, this will be a 262 multifamily, 128 single family.
Yeah.
Total of 390 units. From what I can tell, it looks like your only access point is from FDR Ave. Is that right? Or will you have other connections to the?
Yeah, there is a open connection which is currently being used off of Kamukila, which is shared with it's also the access to the VA. So right, kind of.
Will that just connect the increment 6 and 7, or will that connect to the other increments?
It connects across the whole project. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then there'll also be it's not open yet, but it's getting constructed. There's a access point on Saratoga as well, right in the middle where it kind of splits
Okay.
by base 32 and 46. There's like a roadway right up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Member Strikes. Member Gordner, did you have a question?
Yes, a couple of questions, Chair. Thank you. I noticed that you're doing these calculations off of the average interest rate, which comes out of 6.19. What would it mean for your pricing if we continue to see the interest rates coming back up and kind of the higher interest rates we've seen in the last couple of months?
Yeah, so I mean, strangely enough, or hopefully it actually kind of went down a little past a couple week or two. But that 6-month average, I think, encompasses kind of about the average of what it's been, you know, since late 2023 when those the aggressive increases occurred. But yeah, if it increases some more, I mean, obviously, the affordability gets tougher, right? And everything gets a little tighter. So I think, we're under the assumption that, that this higher for longer kind of talk is coming to fruition. So, yeah, I mean, hope it doesn't get much higher, but yeah, we'll have to just,
Yeah, I only raise it because obviously these are uncertain economic times. The
Yeah.
Fed seems to be holding a stronger line, and
Yeah.
if the rate does align more with, the last couple of months, 6.4, 6.65, that's a difference of, $150 a month, I think, in
Yeah.
interest payments. So the effect on, your market for these units could be considerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
My other question is related. If
Okay.
you have another point there, I'm happy to hear it.
Oh, no, I was just gonna make mention that the average rate is based on the local banks getting the average that they post publicly. I know different agencies and different rules might say, look at the Freddie Mac rates or look at other type of rates, but that's just kind of how what's in these rules. So that's how we calculated it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Then my other question relates to the tariffs coming into place, not specifically for what we're considering today, but looking ahead to future increments of reserved housing we would also like to see go into this project. How are you thinking about that, and is it already affecting your plans?
Yeah, I think our team will echo, we've gotten questions or comments from like all kinds of different, stakeholders, and I wish we had a crystal ball. We haven't heard of any direct impacts yet. Everyone manages where they get their lumber from and, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're just gonna be cautious and, talk to our suppliers, talk to our subs, and really keep it top of mind. But I think I'd be hard pressed to give a real prediction of what's gonna happen.
We've given you all of maybe 48 hours.
Yeah.
to react, so understood.
Great, thank you, Member Gordner. We'll go to Member Lidstone or Secretary Lidstone and then back to Member Evans.
Hello. I pass by every day, so I see increment 1 and 2 and 3. Do you still have more to build out? Are you on increment 3 now? Are you still?
Yeah, so we are vertical in increment 3. Yeah, but none of them are completed yet, but we're under construction in increment 3.
And do you know about when the Saratoga access might occur?
To a certain extent, it might also be dependent on our partners at Hunt, because they were the developers of and the builders of the surrounding public roadways. Yeah, we do know. I don't think we have a clear date on Saratoga yet. Yeah.
Most likely by the time you get into increment 5 and 4, right? Because those are on Saratoga.
5 and
Or
yeah, that would probably put us. We'd be closing those units already into 2026. So with that, hopefully will be all the surrounding roadways are going to be done, and yeah, we'd be hopefully. I mean, I would say we'd work with Hunt and do our best to make sure it's open by then. Yeah.
mahalo.
Thank you, Secretary Lidstone. We'll return to Member Evans and then we'll go to Director Nakamoto.
Oh, thank you, Chair. First of all, Andrew, yay for 3-bedroom units. The fact that you are offering those makes it possible for families to have, to buy those units as opposed to singles. And it also probably stabilizes the churn a little bit because as their families expand, they don't have to move out to accommodate their family. So just a thank you for that. And then Chair, a comment for the members and staff. If the reserve housing program isn't achieving its goals of lower prices and moving sales. I'm wondering whether HCDA should, in a future discussion, consider revising the restrictions that were shown in Exhibit A for Kalaeloa. And I would note that legislators are going much farther than that. They're looking at bills that would abolish exclusionary zoning, that would abolish all restrictions in order to incentivize developers to produce more units. Now, we also have testifiers at legislative hearings saying that, and others saying that, no, you can't solve this problem with supply increases. You have to, segregate demand into local families versus any other buyers. So obviously there's plenty of room for debate at this point, but I just wanted to make that note. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Noted. Thank you, Member Evans. Director Nakamoto.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to kind of take off of Vice Chair Ishii's comment, Member Evans' comment, and I think what Andrew had said. I think with respect to how they might look at the pricing of the market units. Noting that the gap between market and the reserve housing units is relatively small, and thereby shared equity is small, and I would hope that even despite that smaller gap, that you guys can sell these reserve housing units. I would say though that if you have a hard time selling it, I think before you sort of approach us about some kind of solution or other kind of solution to address that Gentry does look to reducing the price on the reserve housing units to encourage the sales. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Nakamoto. Members, any other comments or questions? I just have one. I concur with Member Evans that HCDA should be looking at the reserved housing requirements and potentially revising them. What I would ask this developer and all the developers who have to abide by the reserved housing rules to do is to provide as much information as possible to the staff on some of these sales issues. The data that I think would be most particularly helpful for any potential revision of the rules is to show the market comps of unrestricted units. So for example, you have your restricted units, people don't want to buy it because it comes with buyback and shared equity requirements. If you can show the similar price point units or even lower price point units that are unrestricted at a point in time and record that now during this sales process, that is the kind of information that is helpful for the staff to be able to point to actual data when we go about potentially revising these reserved housing requirements. As Member Gordner pointed out, right, like life is very uncertain and so is the future. So I think it's an open question for the board and for the staff to think about whether these reserved housing requirements, which were adopted at a point in time, are relevant for the year 2025 or for the year 2026 or 2027. And maybe there is a more flexible framework for trying to achieve our goal of moderate priced housing that we could do instead. So I know that the staff thinks very hard about this, but the staff is limited in the kind of data that it has access to. So I'd encourage you, as you're thinking about these things, just record that somehow, transmit it to staff so that when we have more robust discussions about the rules, we can point to that data.
Yeah, we'll do that. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Members, any other comments or questions? Being none, we'll move now to public testimony. Do we have any persons pre-signed up for testimony? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Anyone in person wishing to testify? Seeing no testimony, we will close testimony. Members, I'll be looking for a motion for the board to approve pursuant to the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision in order dated February 2nd, 2022 for application number KAL 21-005 Gentry Homes Reserved Housing Unit Pricing and Supporting Analyses for Increment 3 of Ka'ulu by Gentry located on parcel TMKs 9-1-013, 197, 198, and 199 in the HCDA's Kalaeloa Community Development District, no postal address, and take all actions necessary to effectuate this for action. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by member Evans, thank you. And do I hear a second?
Second, Chair.
Seconded by member Gordner, thank you. Members, is there any further discussion on the motion made by member Evans and seconded by member Gordner? If not, I'll ask Ryan to take the roll call vote.
Member Evans,
Yes.
member Gardner,
Yes.
Chair Higa,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ishii,
Yes.
Secretary Lidstone,
Aye.
member Miranda Johnson,
Yes.
member Anderson is excused, and member Strites.
Yes.
Okay, member motion passes with 7 yes votes, 0 no votes, 1 excused, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you to the developer. And thank you, board members. We'll move now to item number 4, report of the executive director, monthly report and other status reports, including the approved permit applications that did not require HRS 206E-5.6 public hearings. Executive Director Nakamoto will now provide his monthly report.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to provide one update for the board with respect to the Kalaeloa Heritage and Legacy Foundation, property, just the other day, the staff from Kanoa Winds, installed the vertical wind turbine at the site. And I believe it's operational now, but I just wanted to, let the board know that that's happened. Related to Kanoa Winds, they've also, delivered the equipment on Lot C in Kakako and they'll install it some later date. So just want to give the board that update. And we'll provide more updates, onto the, about the Kakako installation later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Nakamoto. Board members, any comments or questions? Yes, member Straits.
Not sure there's a representative from the KHLF.
No, we don't, but I can take back questions, member Schultz.
Yeah, I was just curious about whether they're doing any sort of eradication efforts, because I noticed there's like chickens and roosters there. Doesn't seem to be multiplying like it normally does. So I don't know, you know, if they got a rooster and two hens there.
Yeah, we
like
can
why
find, I think we can find out.
Okay,
Seems to be a common problem.
yeah, everywhere.
Okay, we'll find out.
Good to stay on top of it.
Okay.
Sure, I have a question to relay back as well.
Okay.
I noticed in their February report, some issue with anticipated funding from NOAA. I was just curious to know to what extent the foundation is exposed to federal funding freezes and, you know, whether they would be an existential risk if for whatever reason, federal grants were canceled that they were counting on.
Okay, again, we can also get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, member Gordner. Members, any other comments or questions on the executive director's report? Seeing none, we'll move to public testimony. Do we have any persons pre-signed up to testify? Any persons online wishing to testify? Any in person wishing to testify? Seeing none, public testimony is closed. Thank you to all of the members and staff and participants for showing up for this meeting, which was still very efficient, but not as efficient as the last meeting. We will now move to adjourn. This concludes our business for today. The time is 12:09 p.m.